Greetings, everyone. Welcome to our online Math 151 course. I am Shannon Bishop, the instructor for this class. And I just wanted to take a minute, say hello to everybody, introduce myself, but also give you a feel for what you can find in our Canvas page, what to expect throughout our course, and hopefully relieve perhaps a little anxiety regarding all of the information that you're going to see in our Canvas page, especially in this first week. So allow me to share my screen and we are going to hop into our Canvas page and talk about some things. Okay, so this is what you should see when you log into our Canvas page. And just to kind of point out in the very beginning, you'll notice the student resources section. These are just some things that are available to you as a student. So by all means, check those out at your leisure. Especially if you're brand new to Chandler Gilbert, this might be valuable information for you. But our course content starts right here in this introduction and general info. So this is our kind of introductory startup stuff. And it looks like there's a lot in there. I acknowledge that. But most of it will go by very quickly, and it will definitely help set you up for success. So one of the things I want to point out is that anytime you enter one of our modules, and you'll notice that a bunch of stuff is grayed out, that is because that particular module is set up to be essentially locked to force you to progress through things in order. So like for instance, I cannot click on this semester at a glance calendar because I have not viewed the welcome screen first. So it tells you right here, you have to view this screen, you have to view this screen, you have to submit this item, view this screen, submit that item, stuff like that. So in order to get access to all the things, I'm going to start at the very top where it says view, and you will open that up. And as soon as you do open that up, that is what will now unlock the next piece of the module. You can access the next piece by right down here where it says next. I can just click on that, and that will take me to our semester at a glance calendar. But also, if I were to go back into modules, you will now see that those things have opened up. Because I've viewed the item like I'm supposed to, it has now opened up the next thing. So just keep that in mind if ever you see stuff that's grayed out. So in this introduction module, you'll find our calendar, you'll find your first discussion question, discussion board, I should say, where you get to know each other and myself by introducing yourself. You'll do some very important information like take our syllabus quiz to acknowledge all the important aspects of our course. Your syllabus, by the way, is found right here on the left-hand side, concourse syllabus. So you'll click on that, and that's where you'll find all of our important. Oh, you know what? I haven't published it yet. That's why. But this should be visible for you once I click publish. So you'll click on concourse syllabus to see that. And that's where you'll find all the answers to the syllabus quiz. So very important that you see that information. You'll notice some Respondus Lockdown browser things. We do use Lockdown browser as an online course with a mandatory webcam. And so you'll read the information on that. You'll have to download, if you haven't already, you'll have to download Respondus Lockdown browser. And then we have an opportunity for you to practice using it. So this is kind of your first attempt, if you will, at making sure that you have the program installed and that you know how to access it, how to use it, and also how to submit. Notice it says intro quiz submission, how to submit your work after you've completed an activity within Lockdown browser. So that's what all that is. And then we also have a little bit of a getting started with the math. So I'm going to leave student view on purpose so that I can access some of that stuff. This is what Canvas looks like on my end. So in the getting started with the math, you'll notice that you have access to a rational reasoning platform. So the means through which we'll be learning the majority of our mathematics is through a free online platform called Rational Reasoning, and you will need to create a free account. So it is highly recommended that you just do your same login as Canvas. So your MEID as your username, and just be um, consistent with your password is what I would recommend. You'll have to also go down here and find my name, of course, Bishop, so that you can properly get linked to our course. But once you do that, you'll be able to sign in to our platform. And then the very next thing you'll do is you'll learn to use the system. Okay, so this is what it looks like when you're actually working in rational reasoning. You'll find a variety of ways to interact with the system. There'll be checking boxes type problems. There might be some multiple choice style questions. There might be some free response typing of responses. Um, and this just gives you a feel for how to access it, but also, like, look at right here, how to also enter mathematics when necessary. So you can use what's called the equation editor within here, and it's that little yellow arrow right there, and it pops up a little toolbox if ever you need to be typing mathematics. It's built right into the system. So you'll have a chance to interact with that. You'll also be given a chance to interact with some applets, the way that you can drag certain things to get a feel for what's happening visually. So you'll have a chance to play with that feature, all sorts of fun things. So this is just a practice activity to just expose you to the system, give you a chance to practice how all of the different elements might work. Because when it is time to actually engage in our first learning module, you will indeed be using that platform to do so. So I'm going to minimize that. And speaking of our first learning module, that is what module one has. Okay, so this is the general structure of how our modules will be set up. So you'll always start by working through the following: rational reasoning. And so you'll notice that it's just broken up by section, and every single one of these is graded. So this one's 27 points, 30 points, 34 points, etc. And they are locked. You have to go through them in order. When you're learning math, it only makes sense to go in order. Am I right? I'm right. So, like this one, for instance, you have to at least view it in order for section 1.2 to open up. And then you have to view section 1.2 before section 1.3 will open up. Now, in a perfect world, of course, I hope that you complete section 1.1 before you access section 1.2. But bare minimum, you at least have to view the page and then you can move on to the next thing. So yeah, so you'll just go in order, you'll open that bad boy up. You will start reading what the context is about. You'll interact with some videos. You'll answer some questions. And when you are done with that particular question, you'll hit submit. It'll tell you if you're right or wrong. And sometimes it gives you a little bit of feedback too. And then you can simply try again. You just retry the problem. And that's how you earn your points while simultaneously learning the content. So that is what to expect with rational reasoning. You will always have rational reasoning through which you can learn the material. And then after rational reasoning, you're going to quite probably, I'm going to be a little bit hesitant to say always, but I think it's always. You're always going to stumble upon some optional practice. So these are things that are not tied to our grade book, but they are just extra support if you're looking for extra practice problems to engage with. And then the next section you're going to come to are the required turn-ins. So these are things that are mandatory and they are taken for a grade. So some staples that you're going to see throughout our course pretty much every week, if I'm being honest, are first they're called CYUs. Check your understanding. CYUs. So within each module is a CYU. You can think of it like homework. It's essentially like homework. And it's just full of practice problems for you to engage in to check your understanding. Now, one thing I'll point out is they are pretty lengthy on purpose. And that's because most of these questions are not mandatory, they are optional. A few of them are mandatory. I'll get to that in a second. Most of them are optional, and we just want to provide you an abundance of practice problems just in case you're looking for an abundance of practice problems. If you don't feel like you need them because you're just nailing that module, well, then cool. Maybe you won't do nearly as many this week as you will on a different week when, let's say, you're struggling. So there's an abundance of practice problems in here for you to engage with. Now, as part of those CYUs, though, some of them will be mandatory. And how you'll know which ones are mandatory, well, every week we do have a mandatory summary and reflection. Every week, we're going to ask you to summarize and reflect on what you learned that week. And so for instance, if I view this summary and reflection, it is a multi-part assignment where you need to, first of all, summarize your main ideas that you learned. This can include vocabulary, definitely, notation, little nuances, little tips or tricks that you learned throughout. Um, an annotated example. So what that means is you're going to pull one or two problems either from the rational reasoning content or from the CYU content. And you're not just going to do the problem, but you're going to do the problem while also almost like narrating to yourself some things along the way. Like maybe you're going to justify every step, just reminding yourself, hey, you know, we subtracted these two values to calculate the change in time. You always subtract the values when you're trying to find the change between them. And it's always the ending value minus the beginning value, little tips and tricks like that. Um, so that's going to be your annotated example. And then here we go. You're always going to have a few problems that I do want you to do from the CYUs. So this week, you must turn in problems 2, 7, 10, and 12. So those come directly from that CYU that I had pulled up a minute ago, and you are going to do those 4 problems. You're going to, in order to get full points on this activity. And then last but not least, you're just going to do a little reflection. Oh, I guess it's not last but not least. It's close. You're going to reflect. You can pick any 2 of these questions to reflect on. And then last but not least, if you have questions, now's a good time to ask me a question. I always read these, and any question that students put in this section, I will respond. I mean, definitely, right? That's the whole point. So I will respond to you within our SpeedGrader. When I submit this work back to you, I'm going to have a comment in SpeedGrader that answers this question. And if it involves a more detailed conversation, then you and I will set that up and we'll talk in more detail, whether it's an email or a Zoom call or whatever it might be. Um, and then how you put all this together is up to you. Some students are just going to use regular like loose leaf paper and they're just going to keep track on a sheet of paper or two every week. As an option, not mandatory, but as an option, you are welcome to download these meaningful notes and you can use this as a template if you'd like. Come on. Just going to be nice and slow, perhaps. Oh, there it goes. There it goes. So in this first box is where you can put like that summary of important vocabulary, notation, formulas, things like that. This next box is where you can do your 2 annotated examples. So your rational reasoning or your CYU, where you don't just do that 1 or 2 problems, but you like really talk yourself through it, pointing out the nuances along the way. This could just be other tips and tricks. Here is your reflection section. Remember, there's a mandatory 2-part or 2-question reflection. And then at the very bottom, the questions that you have. Notice the one thing that there's not room for in this are your actual CYU mandatory problems. So those will always need to be done just on a separate piece of paper so that I can spot check those 4 questions. But this, if it's helpful, go ahead and use this. If you don't want to use it, well, that's okay too. It's not mandatory. It's just there as a tool. So, summary and reflection. Yes, that will be in every module as a chance for you to reflect on what you've learned and also do some practice problems. Now, the day after those summaries and reflections are due, the very next morning, the solutions will become available. So the solutions to the CYU in both written and video, like talked through every single problem, is worked through by myself or a colleague. Great resource, right? So as you're going through those practice problems, if you're like, man, I have no idea how to do this one, okay, well, hang tight because the solutions will become available and you can then go back and look at that, watch the video, see if you can make more sense of it. Of course, if not, you're just going to reach out and I'm happy to help in that way. And then last but not least, almost every module. So again, I don't like to speak in definitives like always or never, but quite often, more often than not, there will also be a module quiz. And so that'll be done in Canvas, as you can see, and it only covers that module's content. And that's kind of the main structure of our course. The one other thing you might see, let me see, it happens in Module 2. So you'll notice rational reasoning, 2.1, 2.2, learn the math, learn the math, learn the math. But then there's also right here some extra videos. So sometimes it has become our professional opinion, and by our, I mean kind of all of us that teach Math 151, that through feedback from students and things like that, and our own just experience, sometimes the rational reasoning platform is lacking videos. There are videos in there, but sometimes it's just lacking in that area. And so there are some modules, in fact, many modules where you're going to find an extra page that just has videos in it. And they're going to be videos that pertain to what you've been learning that week in rational reasoning. And so these are made by either myself or my colleagues. And just as a little tip, guys, if we took the time to make these videos for you, it's because in our experience, students have needed them. Students have needed extra support in this area, and that's how and why these videos got created and then, of course, shared with you. So I would definitely keep an eye out for these, and I would definitely view them and interact with them as an extra support. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Chapter 1 or module 1, I should say, does not have any of that. It does still have optional videos. Don't get me wrong, it does. But we probably put it in the optional section just because maybe in our opinion we thought that the material was sufficient on this one, so we snuck it into the optional. Whereas other times we maybe thought it wasn't quite sufficient, and so we purposefully put it in kind of like the mandatory section, if you will. So keep your eyes peeled for those. But yeah, other than that, you'll come across discussion questions here and there, which also have solutions that we'll post the day after it's due. Um, yeah, that's our class in a nutshell. The one thing I will say, I'm just going to go back to point it out. Where am I? Introduction. The one thing I will say is, you're going to notice, and you'll have to get the hang of it certainly, but um, there's a lot, guys. This is an online class, and learning math online, it's not easy. I'm not going to pretend that it's easy. You'll see that for the most part, we set our due dates as Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. That is the norm, Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. But just a friendly reminder that when it says that it's due on Tuesday, Thursday, or Sunday, that's when it's due, like must be turned in by 11:59 p.m. essentially that day. That is not the day you should be starting the material. If you tried to do section 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3 all in one day, do that night, you're going to be hurting. It's a lot. That is not the best plan of attack. You're going to want to start this stuff early, knowing that the dates that you see in Canvas are the absolute latest you can turn them in. So just keep that in mind. The calendar is there to give you a feel, sure, for like what to expect and what's due and when, but that's the latest that you can turn these things in. So please pace yourself. Um, get a feel for what works with you in terms of your work schedule and your home schedule, and just try to stick to it, you know? Okay, well, I think that is going to be it for now. Thank you so much for your time, and I'm looking forward to working with everyone. And if you have any questions, of course, just reach out on email. That's the easiest way to reach me. And I'm looking forward to a great semester. Thanks, everyone.